If you still need to, finish up your planning sheet. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to have your ideas on paper. Now, instead of a needle tool, you're going to use a wooden skewer and just lightly draw in your symbols or designs that you've chosen to go in each section, things that describe you, and get that drawn out. And this will be a guideline. This is not a drawing project. If it were, I would have had you do it on paper. We're just sketching this out on the clay so that you can add pieces on next. So two ways that you can add pieces on is by rolling out some slabs. So I'm going to do this for the cross and roll out a thin slab and then cut out the shape that I need, or you can also form it and pinch it into the shape that you need. Now, anytime you have a piece that you're attaching, you always need to score and slip with a toothbrush. So I'm going to score it twice, once on the shield where it's going to go, and then on the opposite side of the object I'm putting on. So really make sure you're scratching it well with the toothbrush and then pressing it firmly in place. You can always smooth things out with your finger and then use a tool to get into the corners and clean things up if you need to. The second way that you can add pieces on is by rolling coils. So I'm going to roll a coil, a really long, thin one, to be the lines that are crisscrossing across my shield. And coils you can roll right on the table. So that's what I'm doing, and trying to get a really, really thin coil. And then I'm going to measure it to see how far it needs to go. Right there looks pretty good. I'm going to cut some of that off and then roll the rest of it to a consistent thickness for the vertical line. Okay, now that I have those lines measured out, like I said before, I'm going to slip and score with my toothbrush and some water. Teeny tiny pieces, you really only need to score one side, but just really make sure you're pressing it firmly into place. You can use your tools creatively to add details to your work. For example, I just used the back side of the needle tool to add the hole where your hand would hold an art palette. And now I'm rolling pieces of clay and sticking them on to look like paint splotches and forming a paintbrush in my hand. I also want you to add some texture, so use your tools to scratch in some texture or press them in and make your artwork look a little more interesting. So I'm just going to finish up the rest of my squares, and you can just kind of watch how I do each one for the different methods I use, slipping and scoring everything on, sometimes scratching things in so I get a good texture. Now for the top of my tree, I really wanted it to look like bushy and bumpy, like a really full tree. So I just kind of smushed some pieces on, and then I even just used my fingernail and my fingers to press in some spots, and using my tool to make it look kind of bumpy. And then adding on a slab for the trunk, and then defining my shapes with some lines with the needle tool. Now that you're done adding your details to each of the sections of your shield, we have one more thing to do, which is to add your name. So I'll show you how to add a banner or a ribbon onto your shield. So first, you're going to roll out a thin, small slab. It doesn't have to be very big. And then we're going to cut it into an arch. So I've got one curved line and then another curved line, almost like a rainbow. And then if you want, the sides can be straight like this. It's just a little bit curved. All right, now where this is going to go is either on the bottom, like upside down, or you can flip it up. Maybe you want yours to have edges more like a ribbon. So if you want to, you can cut a triangle out of each side so it looks more like a ribbon, pointed ends like this. Okay, again, it can go on the bottom, on the top. Doesn't really work so well to go on the bottom. If you want, you could even put yours on the top if you'd like that better. I think I liked mine placed on the bottom a little bit better. Sometimes you have to smush down pieces that are raised up and then score and slip yours on after it's attached. Then you can take a wooden skewer to write your name. Now I'm going to do my last name. If you want to do your first name, you can, but that is up to you. Now, this part can be tricky because every time you do a line, sometimes that clay likes to bunch up a little bit. So notice how I'm cleaning off the point of my skewer every so often, just to make sure I don't have a bunch of clay that bunches up. You may have to go over your letters a second time if you need to. I like the look of having all uppercase letters, but again, that part is up to you. And there you go. There's your shield. Have fun, guys.